Congratulations! You have just made an international sale. For many of you, this is your first time exporting, so you may not be familiar with the filing requirements of the Automated Export System, which I will refer to as the AES. But you may be wondering, when are you required to file an AES? Or what constitutes an export shipment? Or better yet, who's responsible for doing the filing? Well, my name is Keisha Pickrell, and I work in the Foreign Trade Division of the U.S. Census Bureau. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to share some information that will help answer those questions. Ultimately, I want to help make your export transaction as smooth as possible. So let's get started. Now, the first step in determining if you must file an AES record is by looking at where your shipment is going. You are required to file an AES for all physical goods that are shipped from the United States to foreign countries, between the United States and Puerto Rico, from Puerto Rico to foreign countries, from Puerto Rico to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and from the United States to the U.S. Virgin Islands. So if your product is not going to any of the locations that I just mentioned, then you're not required to file an AES. However, if your products are, then there's another step you must be aware of. The second step in determining if you must file an AES record is by determining if your order meets the Census Bureau's definition of a shipment. The Census Bureau defines a shipment as merchandise shipped from one U.S. principal party in interest, which I will refer to as the USPPI, going to one consignee, leaving on the same conveyance, whether by flight, vessel, truck, train, or mail, going to the same country, on the same day, and is valued at over $2,500 per Schedule B or when a license is required. I know I've just given you a mouthful of information, but think of it in this simple way. A shipment is goods from one U.S. company or individual to one foreign company or individual, leaving on one carrier, going to one country, on one day, and is valued at over $2,500 per Schedule B or when a license is required. Now that we've defined a shipment, you may be wondering, what is a USPPI? Let me briefly explain. The USPPI is the party in the U.S. who is receiving the primary monetary benefit from the export transaction. So really we're looking at who in the U.S. is getting paid by the foreign buyer. The USPPI can be a U.S. seller, a U.S. manufacturer, an order party, or even a foreign entity if that party is physically here in the U.S. when the goods are purchased or obtained. Now let's go through an example. Let's say you, the U.S. seller, receives two orders from the same foreign buyer who is located in Japan. On Monday, he orders $1,500 of microscopes, and on Tuesday, he orders an additional $3,500 of the same microscopes. You ship both orders on Tuesday to your customer by air. Since you are the USPPI and are shipping both orders to the same foreign party, going out on the same flight, to the same country, on the same day, and the goods are valued at over $2,500 per Schedule B number, this is considered one shipment. The value of the shipment is $5,000, and the information pertaining to those transactions will be reported on one AES record. Now, let me throw a twist in it. Let's say you use the same scenario, but the goods are shipped out on different days. Order number 1 ships out on Monday, and order number 2 on Tuesday. In this scenario, only number 2 requires an AES filing because it is over $2,500. Order number 1 would not be filed because it is less than $2,500. Now that we've determined that you have to file an AES, you must also be aware of the specific time frames that you must adhere to. The required time frames are based on mode of transportation. For goods that are not licensed by the State Department, you must file your export information in AES 24 hours prior to loading your cargo onto the vessel. If the mode of transportation is truck, the export information must be filed 1 hour prior to the truck arriving at the U.S. border. For cargo leaving by air, the information must be filed 2 hours prior to the scheduled departure of the aircraft. Cargo shipped by rail must be filed 2 hours prior to the time the train arrives at the U.S. border. And shipments by mail must be filed 2 hours prior to export. My colleagues and I are here to help make your exporting transaction as smooth as possible. So if you have any questions about this presentation or any part of the foreign trade regulations, give us a call at 1-800-549-0595 and select option 3. or email us at ftdregs@census.gov.